also in Benue, where I think the authorities there did say that they don't think that this is just about Fulani herdsmen alone, that they also suspect that their ranks have been infiltrated. You remember you just mentioned insurgents also taking advantage of the situation. They say they wonder where these people have the money to buy sophisticated equipment, sophisticated arms, more or less, and attack villages, that the manner of destruction is so total that they think not that there's a Fulani herdsmen at all. Do you think that they are being used as scapegoats for what exactly is not their fault, so to speak?
Yeah, well, truly speaking, Mope, I think Mope, you are repeating probably what I have asserted earlier, and that is that, the Fulanis that live with us, that have lived with us over the years, have built their homes, they have invested in the environment, and they've become more or less indigenous of the area, and so on and so forth. We have them on one side. And then we have the nomads that come in for the purpose of grazing, some of whom sometimes we don't know from where. Do remember that the Fulani race is a race that transcends even national boundaries, not just states, but national boundaries. And so government having failed to take absolute control and identify the differences between the indigenous Fulanis and Fulanis that move into communities from places nobody knows. Now, when these people move in, that's the way it happens. When these people move in and cause one havoc or the other, the chances are that with the level of frustration that is living within every man and woman of this country these days, because of one frustration or the other, unemployment, poverty, and so on, you tend to see a reaction. You tend to see a reaction that is likely to affect even the indigenous Fulanis that have come to stay on a permanent basis within us. And thereafter, what you notice is another set of Fulanis, this time from only God knows where. And I don't believe that, coming in the name of reprisals. In the case of Kaduna State, the unfortunate thing that has happened here is that when this crisis started, some of the Fulani men and women that have lived within us moved out. And when people move out for fear of one thing or the other, they are likely to get mixed up with insurgents from somewhere else, unless government does what is necessary to bring them back quickly to a round table with the other indigenous groups within which they stay, and see if a kind of a common security arrangement can be forged between the Fulanis themselves and the indigenous communities, against insurgents. This has not happened in the case of Kaduna State, and I'm looking forward to that. The indigenous Fulanis must be brought back quickly. We must sit on a round table. We must see if indeed, like some of them would normally say, that they have come to stay, they have no other place to go. If that is the case, we should see a common resolve between them and the communities, to secure the southern part of the state against insurgents, whether those insurgents are Fulanis or whoever they are. This is what I look forward to seeing. In America, for example, you realize that even the American Muslims, once you have, if you have insurgency from extremists, Islamic extremists, for example, the loyalty to state by the American Muslims is such that they can collectively with other Americans secure America against insurgents from outside the country. This is what I expect within our various communities and states.
You draw a distinction, I think it's one that has not been drawn before, but you draw a distinction between indigenous Fulani settlers who have lived in some communities for many years now, and those who are, who are still nomadic. And then it was saying that there is a third category who no one knows where they're coming from, but some of them, from what we also read, do not seem to have cattle, but are, you know, very well armed. Now, one would ask, when was this observance made, and how come it's taken so long for, you know, the local or the indigenous Fulani people to be protected, or their cooperation sought in sifting out those who are nomadic or those who are insurgents and trying to give them a bad name? Why has it taken so long?
I will admit that you've raised a very fundamental point, that is the weakness of the effort by communities and government put together. And that is why I said earlier that even as these things are raging on, I seek to see a situation where government would quickly put together the indigenous Fulanis and let us know. Because, you see, once the indigenous Fulanis become affected by the acts of terrorists, and they are in turn affected by the reaction of the communities, and they leave such communities, nobody knows where they are moving into, nobody knows with whom they are now developing an alliance, nobody knows the new indoctrination they are going through. And at the end of the day, some of them actually become part of the insurgency, even though they are supposed to be indigenous. And so I would say that, in answer to your question, that it's a failure of our system to work proactively, because we have ARDOs even within the traditional system. Our traditional council, you know, have ARDOs. That is, the ARDOs are Fulani leaders sitting in council, sitting in traditional council. One would expect that the communities sitting side by side with government will take advantage of the presence of the ARDOs, you know, to actually, you know, secure the loyalty of the indigenous Fulanis, so that working side by side with the communities, they will secure the environment against insurgents that might be coming from either some strange Fulani people or from other non-Nigerian nationals. This has not happened, and that is what I'm looking forward to, personally.
What happened yesterday in Nasarawa, for instance, the military says they do not have any reports of an attack. But eyewitnesses say some of those people that came in there forcefully. Do you think the resident Fulani headsmen, those that have lived in these communities for this length of time, would they be willing to speak up, as in to identify those who have come in forcefully, in order that they can be routed?
I think this is what I'm saying also. It depends on the level of loyalty that the indigenous tribal communities have been able to extract from the indigenous Fulanis within them. So long as we continue to strike no difference, so long as we continue not to identify, seek to identify the true level of loyalty, the correct level of loyalty between the indigenous communities and the Fulanis that have lived for years and years within these communities, such Fulanis are left in the middle. And it's just a question of they can tilt to either side so very easily, unless the communities and governments of such states have a way of bringing them together and ensuring that they are working together with the indigenous communities. Otherwise, what is likely to happen, like I said earlier, is that whoever looks like a Fulani person in a situation where, for example, there is persecution here and there, the indigenous Fulani, if threatened, might align with other Fulanis, in quotes, that might be insurgents who have no other agenda within such communities than to kill and maim innocent people. Here, I want to really draw attention to what is going on politically at this time. Politics has moved in, and politicians who have the mandate, who have the constitutional responsibility to guarantee peace, are too busy with 2011 electioneering campaigns, sometimes even ahead of the INEC guidelines. Now, this, I think, must stop. Political parties at this time must not roll out the most important people that should be working towards political solutions to this problem into electioneering campaigns, away from the issues that are hurting the very people they seek to lead. Because the interface that has come out clear from our discussion that is missing between the indigenous Fulanis, the indigenous people, this interface can only be facilitated by politicians who have been given a mandate by the combination of the indigenous tribal groups as well as these Fulanis together. But I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. In most cases, sometimes what you have is people fanning the embers of disunity as politicians in one place and clicking their wine glasses and doing their political campaigns together with the same people they have kind of created enmity between their own immediate community and those other people. So I am looking forward to a situation where politicians, particularly elected representatives, will take the bull by the horn, realize the fact that their constitutional responsibility, the oath of office, which clearly is spelled out, particularly under the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy, states very clearly that their primary function is the security of the people.